There's a feeling when you're on the edge of making a big life-changing decision. It's a feeling that's really hard to explain, but once you've felt it, you know it. It's that moment when you know you need to move, but there's a hesitation. Am I making the right decision? What if I regret it? And you can feel it in that moment, that window of that decision. If I don't act on it now, then I probably never will. And it's that window of opportunity that I want to break down and talk to you about today. Here is what tends to happen when you're in that space. You go into checklist mode. We've gone into the logical mind. So we're risk assessing the hell out of everything. We are evaluating every single angle. We are looking into every possible outcome because we, in that moment, want to be 100% certain about the path we're about to take. Essentially what we're doing is this safe? I wrote something about this in my life at a moment when I genuinely felt it was a now or never moment. And the way that I described it in my writing was by saying that I was constantly checking to see that I had my seatbelt on before I made the move. Have I assessed the risks? Have I checklisted everything? Am I ready for impact? Have I done everything possible to go into my logical brain to think about every single outcome so that nothing goes wrong? Is my seatbelt on? Am I ready for off? And then I had this realization. It wasn't a seatbelt I needed. It was knowing my integrity to my very core. For me, this all became really real in 2018. After 15 years in policing, I decided I would take a career break. By this point, I had 2 kids under 5. I'd been through a near-death experience, and something in me was pulling me towards living life in a different way. And whilst on my career break, I started teaching yoga and leaning into a softer side of myself. I didn't, if I'm honest, at the time, didn't fully know where this was taking me, but it felt meaningful enough for me to take some steps to go towards it. So the career break I'd taken was for 5 years. And on a career break, essentially, everything is on pause. So you receive no salary, your career's on a break. And then a couple of years into this 5-year career break, I started asking the question, am I going to go back? When you look at things on paper, well, it made sense, right? You had the stability, the structure, the income. But underneath all of that, there was a real question. And the real question, the big life-changing question was, do I really want to go back? The confusion wasn't really about the external situation and what was going on outside. I was never confused about the job, the money, the logistics. It was about knowing the truth of the answer. It was about, do I have the courage to stand in the knowing of what my answer is? And it's that bit of the question that's really hard to describe and hard to explain, because I knew the truth was, I don't want to go back. I couldn't describe it, but I could feel it. So this is where we go back to what I said earlier about checking that you've got your seatbelt on, but actually realizing it's not about the seatbelt, it's about knowing your integrity to the very core. It's got nothing to do with any outside reference points, but everything to do with an internal, like, GPS system. To me, integrity is knowing what feels aligned and what doesn't. It's about knowing when you are compromising something about yourself because you want to make a situation comfortable. It's knowing when you're being true to yourself versus when you're performing a role. Because to me, when you know your integrity to your very core, then you don't need as much reassurance. You don't need as much validation. And that's because there's something in you that recognizes this doesn't sit right with me, or even I can't ignore this any longer. Those moments when you're about to say yes to something, but really everything about you wants to say no. That it's the tension. It's that moment that I'm talking about. That gateway of opportunity. It's that pause. And in that moment, what we want to do as human beings is we are going to go for the safety. And why do we do that? Well, we do it out of habit. We do it because that's what we've been conditioned to do. And we've come to trust everything that comes outside of ourselves, as opposed to leaning in towards the message that's arising from within. So what we question without even realizing it is what I'm feeling inside. Like the answer to this question is probably just not enough, because everything outside is weighing against what I'm feeling inside. And when that happens, then we just don't trust. And what that means is we check more, we ask for advice more, and we look outside of ourselves more. For me, my seatbelt was the idea that if all else failed, I could always go back to the police. So my seatbelt was, in fact, my safety net. But just 2 years into that break, I knew I wasn't going to go back. And I can't describe it in any other way other than say that once I knew, there was just no point in delaying that decision for another 3 years. Even though that meant that I was going to be uncertain about many things, that many things about our lifestyle were going to change. I just knew. Now, I don't have everything figured out. I am navigating my life and different life chapters the same as everybody else. But what I do know, and what I have come to realize these past few years, is that when you begin to unpeel and take back all of the external voices, there's a voice inside of you that's speaking to you all the time. And this voice might be a whisper, it might be really loud, it comes to you in many, many ways. There's a message in it somewhere. And this voice wants to be heard. And this voice holds something really powerful and truthful. And we know it. And we're scared to know the full extent of its power. And I think that is why we put the seatbelt on. And we feel safer trusting the seatbelt rather than the message of the voice. And I get it. I get it. And in saying that, I feel like it's the answer to the whole world's problems. We're kept from this power that we have because we don't want to be gods or whatever it is. But maybe that talk is for another time. What I'm trying to say is we know, and I know you know, and I know that it's scary. And who knows, maybe this time the answer to that life-changing decision is going to be, I'm not going to do it just yet. I'm just going to save it till next time. And that's okay, because there's no need to rush. There's actually, there's a time and there is, a right time and a right place for all sorts of different things. I think about why it is that I'm talking, and it's not about so much providing you with a how-to or a solution. It's about trying to mirror something within that I can perhaps describe to you in words so that it echoes all the way through this screen into your heart, that you recognize it too. And maybe if you're still listening up to this point, if you're still watching and this has resonated with you, as one likes to say, then maybe you know the sound of that voice because it's already spoken to you. And so I'm just going to leave it there today, in recognition and in honor of that voice who one day will get its time to shine. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.